pasó después del 11 de julio.
It's always interesting to hear the sign on and sign off of Voice of America. Reminds me of the good old days of Shortwave. And they're still there, of course.
This is VOA News. I'm Scott Walterman. The UN Security Council said it will discuss the Israel-Hamas war Monday as the crisis deepens, with Israel now gearing up for a ground offensive in Gaza. The Council said it will start deliberations at 2200 GMT. The UN agency supporting Palestinian refugees has warned that the Gaza Strip faces an unprecedented human catastrophe and urged Israel not to attack civilian infrastructures and to protect civilians.
And the health system, of course, in Gaza generally, but in the north in particular, is collapsing before our very eyes. Water supplies are cut, stocks are pretty well out in most of these hospitals. These are civilian infrastructures, and they also are protected by international humanitarian law from attack. They must not be attacked. They must be places of safety.
At the White House, U.S. President Joe Biden has canceled a trip to the U.S. West, opting to stay at the White House and in touch with the situation. AP correspondent Sagar Meghani has reported that the president is thinking about visiting the region. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said today he's working with other leaders from around the world to make sure the conflict doesn't spread. Here's VOA's Kim Lewis.
The British Prime Minister said he had spoken to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
Now, I've raised with the Israeli Prime Minister the need to minimize the impact on civilians best we can. I've raised the humanitarian situation. We will continue to do that.
Britain has sent Royal Air Force surveillance aircraft to the eastern Mediterranean to make sure no armed shipments have been sent to other terrorist organizations in the region.
We will continue to do everything we can to alleviate the humanitarian situation on the ground, including moving some of our Royal Navy assets in.
That is VOA News. Polish voters have turned out in record numbers and seem to have ousted the country's ruling nationalist party. It opens the way for opposition parties to take control of Warsaw and repair Poland's relationship with the European Union. But Reuters correspondent Sean Hogan says those who voted for change could have to wait until next year for it to happen.
Lengthy coalition talks could be on the cards. It could take weeks or months before a government is formed. A late exit poll on Monday showed incumbent Law and Justice, or PiS, a nationalist party that has clashed repeatedly with the European Union on a range of issues, remaining the largest party, but falling short of a majority. Opposition parties, led by former European Council President Donald Tusk, have hailed the outcome as marking the end of PiS rule. Analyst Ava Kulik believes a record turnout of voters has helped swing the result.
Once again, that was Reuters correspondent Sean Hogan. In Liberia, the National Elections Commission is calling on citizens to remain calm as it announces the results of last Tuesday's vote. Henry Cuomo is the spokesperson for Liberia's National Elections Commission.
We are at a point that the results are being read by the chairperson and the rest of the board members, and we are also at a point where Liberians will have to wait, as we've been doing, until the results are all announced and the winners are being declared as provided by law.
Observers are predicting a possible presidential runoff between President George Weah and main challenger Joseph Boakai. An inexperienced politician who is also heir to a huge fortune has won Ecuador's presidential runoff election. More on that from AP correspondent Karen Chalmers.
Supporters of President-elect Daniel Noboa celebrate as the son of Ecuador's richest man claimed victory in Ecuador's presidential election. Noboa's opponent, Luisa Gonzalez, told her supporters he welcomed Noboa as her country's new president, saying his win was a sign of democracy. Noboa will lead the South American country during a period that drug-related violence has left Ecuadorians wondering when, not if, they will be victims. I'm Karen Hanna.
In the video game Minecraft, which was learned by Microsoft, where players build virtual worlds, has passed 300 million copies sold, cementing its status as the best selling video game ever. I'm Scott Walterman, VOA News.
On the show today, violence and diplomacy both